this will actually be uploaded to YouTube when it is on. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Paula Sherrill. I live in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I am one of the stake reps in the Athens, Georgia stake, but I'm also on assignment. I work as the committee chair, and I lead the regional committee for single adults in the Atlanta area, and that is over 12 stakes. So I work with the stake single adult representatives and the leaders of that stake. And what we have found is that in coming together with our committee, which I dearly love, these people are just so awesome. We also have learned that there's not a great venue, at least so far that I have found, to hear the voice from the single adults. And so what I'm doing with these weekly webinars is I'm inviting different leaders into our group, if you will, and they're going to share a message. And then we'll kind of open it up for everybody to talk about different things, or to respond or ask the leader different things or whatever. And then we'll be talking about different topics. And the topics will vary from personal development, parenting as single adults, or dating. We'll also talk about the single adult program in the church. Throughout the weeks, we may talk about other topics as well. But for right now, that is just kind of where we're at. I'm excited to have all of you guys here with me tonight. And to start off with, I do want to turn some time over to Brother Woodruff, who is a high councilman over the single adults in the Powder Springs stake here in Georgia. And if you're a country music fan, they actually talk about Powder Springs in a song that I've heard recently. But anyway, so I'm going to turn some time over to him. He has a message to share with single adults, and then we'll just go from there. So, Brother Woodruff.
All right. I'm Brother Woodruff, and I'd like to welcome the individuals that are on the webinar this evening. And I want to let you know that the Lord loves you. The Lord knows you by name. He knows you personally. He knows your needs, your wants, your desires, and He wants you to know that He wants you to be joyful. I myself was a single adult when I was in my earlier years. I'm 61 now and remarried. I was single parent, like many are. I had 3 children. 2 were in diapers when I had my 3 children by myself. As a single father, I raised them with full custody. I understand the challenges that we have as single adults. I'm a past branch president for over 6 years. I dealt with a lot of single adults and the issues that they had. I want you to know that I understand you. We all have issues why we can't come, or we can't do this or that or the other, or serve or make meetings and come to single adult activities. But I would encourage you through prayerful consideration to do your best to attend some of these things. Make a way. Take the opportunity to get a babysitter if you have children. Prayerfully consider coming to these activities that Paula and the group leadership do so many minutes and time for you, for your benefit. We all have many opportunities to come if we'll make that available through making a commitment and eventually making it to the temple. We can come to the temple, we can get together, we can have dinner, we can meet and greet and enjoy the Lord. I want you to know that the stake loves you. I know the Powder Springs Stake Presidency speaks to this Powder Springs Stake about that in our group meeting. I know all the other stakes, as there are 12 meet regularly. I know you're on their agenda. I want you to know that the Lord loves you and He cares about you, and that we're trying to do our best to reach out to you in the most convenient fashion that we can, to share some time with you and to let you get together and meet others in the stake that have circumstances like yourselves. And I leave those things with you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Now, at this time, I like opening the floor up to people that want to ask something of a single adult or a leader that works with single adults, or someone that may have a suggestion as to how they can better help or serve single adults. So at this time, is there anyone that would like to share your thoughts, feelings, or questions? If you do, you can feel free to raise your hand. Or unmute yourself. Either way. Mary Miller had a question. Do we have a Powder Springs rep yet? Actually, that's a fabulous question. But you do. You have Laura Massey. Laura Massey has been the Powder Springs rep for a few months now, I believe. Am I right, Brother Woodruff?
I would say
Uh-oh.
Brother Woodruff, do you remember how many single adults are in our stake? There's a lot.
when I was with the stake president in our last high council meeting, which was last Sunday, a week ago, we had just shy of 1,000 in the Powder Springs stake.
Did Paula make a
I think
I'm here. My internet went out. I was like, what the heck? Had to reconnect my internet. Of all the things. Oh my goodness. Such opposition and great things. All right. All right. So I take it we got that question worked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
right.
All right. Awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, this is not a stake specific call at all. This is just single adults. And that we got people from all over. So so I just know that generally we get on the call with me here in Atlanta, and we get some questions there sometimes. Even last week, I had somebody ask me about North Carolina, who they could contact there for leaders. So, so yeah. So, any question, comment, whatever, as far as single adults. Anyone else?
How about the bulk of our activities, Paula? Where are they mostly located?
Right now, with ours, with the second Saturday events, it is in the Sandy Springs area. We do have those there every month. As far as the activities go, though, the ones that we're doing on the last Saturday of the month, those can be closer to the stakes that are hosting those. So that varies just depending on who's hosting and where the activity is. So
Yeah, I think it's good.
yeah.
Those on call, the web, the bulk of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a lot for people to travel to in general, but with dealing with 12 stakes, we've just found the temple is just kind of an easy place to say, hey, this is where we're at.
Exactly.
So, you know. Alrighty. Okay, any other questions or comments from anybody? All right. Then thank you so much, Brother Woodruff. We really appreciate you taking the time to come in and share a message. You are more than welcome to stay on our call. Our conversation throughout this meeting is going to change. It can go up and down, so any input from leaders is always welcome. At this point, thank you. At this point, I am going to share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint here that we're going to be kind of helping me stay on track with just a little bit. And just so that you know, we are planning to have weekly discussions. I don't want this just to kind of be an all me thing. I'll kind of present a topic and a few ideas, and then from there, would like to open it up to more of a discussion. The only thing that I ask is that we do not bash other people. No leaders, no exes, no anything. We want to keep this as positive, uplifting, and encouraging as possible. I'm not saying that we don't deal with anything that's negative. I'm just saying I just don't want to get into any kind of bashing. We're just not going to go there. And also, we'd like to keep most of the discussions more in generalities rather than specifics. Meaning, I don't want you to go into details about your situation or your ex or whatever. Just because this is kind of a bigger group setting, this is recorded, and you know, we want to make sure that your privacy and your children's privacy are held intact there. So tonight, yeah. Did you have a comment? Maybe I was hearing things. All right, so tonight what I wanted to talk about, last week what we did hit on talking about a relationship with the Lord, and with all things, I just feel like that needs to be first and foremost. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about stages of loss. We all have gone through it at certain points. Whether you've dealt with a death of a loved one or family member or your spouse, or you've gone through the divorce process, or anything like that. Just know that right now, everybody is going to experience some sort of loss during their life, and different stages people will go through. And no matter where you're at as a single adult in this process or in these stages, we still have a place for you in the program, in the single adult program, and in our group. We want you to be there, because I really feel like that part of the purpose of this program is to help us through this. It's not like you reach a point of the end and then all is well and then you can start coming. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And one of the first stages is denial. It's no matter if you're expecting it to come, whether it was an all of a sudden thing, it can be just very surreal and very difficult to accept it when all of a sudden your spouse is suddenly gone. And often there's an immediate period of shock and denial, which is a normal defense mechanism. And depending on the loss or how sudden that was, it can be overwhelming, and it can be a lot to process at one time. And so denial can become a problem if it goes on for too long, or if somebody simply refuses to accept their spouse's decision, if especially in a divorce situation, or if your spouse has passed away. That is just definitely one thing that people do deal with. The other one is pain and fear. When the reality sinks in that they're never coming back, the finality of losing your spouse hits you with all kinds of pain. It can feel like a punch in the gut. It can also become kind of a dull ache that you carry every day. There are no certain time frames that each person goes through this. Some people can also go back and forth in some of these as well. So the fear of starting over can be severe, and a lot of times people start asking things like, how am I going to go on with my life and feel this bad? How am I going to manage everything on my own? I remember asking that. How could I possibly do this? I had 5 kids, and they're all pretty young. And what if you could what if yourself to death? But what if I never fall in love again and end up alone? Or what if any number of other scenarios that you may go through in your head? And this is probably the most difficult part of the grieving process. But if you can allow yourself to feel the pain and face your fears, that is the healthiest way to get through it. Because otherwise, our body tends to hold on to this. There's a book that I love, and it's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. So this is more to do with, and then there's others that are related and very similar, but more to do with the fact that if you don't deal with the emotions, the pain and the grief or the fear that you're feeling, it will get buried inside you somewhere and will come out later as health issues or other issues that are definitely unresolved. So something to think about there. I know somebody today on one of the Facebook groups I'm a part of posted a question asking if we thought that people needed therapy after a divorce or a death of a spouse. And I think that's up to each individual, but I would highly recommend it. I think most people do need it in one form or another. I know for me, I spent about 2 years in therapy, and that really helped me a lot. And then I went off and on a couple of years even after that. So it is very helpful. I think it just depends on who the therapist is and depends on where you're at in your stages of grief and able to process the emotions. Now, number 3 is anger. And anger is one that a lot of people deal with because, you're kind of get thrown a curveball. You were expecting to be able to grow old with this person, and you feel like maybe you're dealing with something that you didn't deserve or didn't expect, and you feel like you have every right to be angry. And anger can be a good emotion to feel for a while, but not holding on to it. Our liver is our anger center, and if the anger is not dealt with, then again, it will affect your health. It will affect your energy. It will affect so many different aspects of your life. So just keep that in mind. And then the bursts of anger can feel a lot better when you're able to express it in a more healthy way without hurting somebody else. And that can be a lot better than wallowing in the pain. And whether you're angry with your ex for not doing their part to save the marriage, or angry at the doctors for not doing everything to save a life, or just angry at everyone for simply going on with their lives as usual, anger is a very common response to anybody grieving a loss. And I don't know about you, but I spent some time doing some bargaining with the Lord. And, this part of my stages. But the bargaining can be pleading to God to spare or extend your loved one's life before their death. It can occur, or it even can be an attempt to reconcile your marriage at any point during the divorce process. While there's certainly nothing wrong with making a last-ditch effort to save your loved one's life or your marriage, continuing to bargain beyond what is realistic or reasonable can cross the line into desperate or delusional type behavior. So definitely want to keep that in mind. Guilt is another one. I think I stayed in guilt the longest as far as my stages go. Experiencing feelings of guilt usually means that you're beginning to accept the situation, but rather than blaming others, you begin focusing on finding fault with yourself. And then it's important, it's very important that we determine, and where that guilt is coming from, and kind of the purpose of it, if you will, and then able to be able to let go of it. Because guilt held on for a long time is not going to help anybody. I'm trying to get to the chat box here. It's just not pulling up for me very well. Anyway, we do want everybody to feel accountable for their actions. That is still pretty huge. We just don't. Go on. Okay. Oh, who wrote the book on Feelings Buried Alive Never Die? Oh, who wrote that book? I would have to look that up. But I think the last name was Truman, but I don't remember. All right. So, guilt is just a tough one. You do, like I said, you do want to accept actions for your mistakes. You do want to own it and not blame somebody else. But it's just not healthy to keep beating yourself up or to fool yourself into believing that a significant event such as a death or a divorce was solely the result of something you did or did not do. And that can be with any situation. Depression is another one. And not surprisingly, depression is the most common and long-lasting stage of grief following a death or a divorce. When the reality and gravity of the situation are sinking in and your emotions are no longer running wild, you have no choice but to sit with it. And that can sound like and look like so many different aspects. I know that for men, depression looks like anger for the majority of men. For women, it does look like depression. It looks a lot like sadness. I know that getting to the stage of acceptance and being okay with where you're at and with who you are and with the situation and with your loss is huge. Now, it can also mean learning to overcome adversity, embracing the wisdom and personal growth to be gained from the experience, and knowing there's still happiness to be found in your new life ahead. Now, I went through those stages kind of fast, but we're going to talk about a couple of those tonight. I think that it's just important to have a conversation about this. I think overall, there are so many people that are just at different stages with dealing with your marriage or your loss or your divorce. Now, not everybody on this call has even been married before. Some of you are never married. And we're all at different age ranges, and we're all at different aspects or different points in our life with our career or whatever. But as far as the stages of grief goes, we will all experience those at some point. Even for those that have never been married, at some point you're going to feel a loss in your life, or a void, if you will. I know different people will learn to cope with it in different ways. I know for me, one of my things I did early on was I stayed so ultra busy, I couldn't feel. I didn't stop to think about it. I didn't stop to feel it. I just kept myself so busy. And I had 5 kids. That was easy for me to do. But between work and church, and I went back to school, I did whatever to pile on different things so that I didn't have to feel it. Now, was that great for me? Nope. Because it affected my health. And then I started going to doctors, and they're like, well, you have this issue now. Now you have this issue, and you have that issue. And when I reached about 4 of those issues, I was like, okay, Uncle, I'm done. I'll deal with it. Because I knew about I knew about the feelings buried alive. A friend of mine had shared that with me. And, it was something that I had to deal with. Now, it wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. I have completely accepted where I'm at. I've let go of the guilt that I felt. For years, I held on to so much guilt. And I know my friends know the issues surrounding my divorce, but there was a tremendous amount of guilt involved there. And I know I shared a little bit of it last week, with the fact that I became the only parent to my 5 children in a night, because I found out something my ex-husband was doing. It was very illegal, and he is now in prison for that. And so the whole beating myself up about how could I not have known kind of thing lasted with me for a few years. And I'm now at a point where I know that I did the best that I could, and I did all that I could do. And it's not easy, definitely not easy. And especially since there are times when I still deal with different aspects of that, because I've got 5 kids, and they're all at different stages of their grieving, and it's been 12 years, almost 12 years since everything happened. So I think that's one of the beautiful points or aspects of the single adult program that I love. No matter what stage you're in, you can come be a part of this group. You can come and participate. You can come to the temple with us. You can go to dinner with us. You can whatever. We're a big group of friends, and that's something that I really do love talking about. And if you can approach the single adult program with that expectation of making friends and just being a part of a big group of friends, you will be a lot happier with the program. You'll leave activities and events less disappointed in the program, and you will be able to bring to the program what is needed. I know I'm a big believer in you get out of it what you put into it. When there are people that send me a big old long paragraph about how awful something was, or an event or whatever, I generally will just know that their expectations were different, and they didn't look at it in the aspect of what were they bringing to it, but instead of what could they get out of it. So I have this little picture that I share on my PowerPoint here. Single adult program, what's in it for me? And this is something that I like kind of talking to people about in general, because a lot of times we approach different things that we get involved with the attitude of, what am I going to get out of it? What's in it for me? And that's totally fine if that is your perspective. There's nothing wrong with that. But just know that you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And if you can offer friendship and be willing to approach people in a way that they can feel like somebody else cares about them, because not everybody is going to feel like going around and talking to different people or whatever. Some of them are just good to get into that room, to walk in there and sit at a table and take a deep breath, and they're like, okay, I made it. Everybody's at different stages. Everybody's at different um, I don't know, they have different perspectives. They have just different attitudes, if you will, even towards so much of the aspect of this. All right, so Mary here says, I sometimes just need to be with good people and away from a hole in the wall, looking for friends and fun and being brave to meet new people. A lot, and quite honestly, Mary, I think that is most people. I think you're not alone in that one. That is pretty huge. And please feel free to unmute yourself and share your thoughts with us as well, because I'd really like to open this up to discussion. If you feel like you would like to do that, that would be awesome. So I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds so that you guys can unmute yourself and start talking. I'm a mason jar. You know, I'm an Alabama girl, right? That's my glass of choice.
Paula,
Yeah,
I can make a comment.
that'd be awesome.
I'm a fairly the same self program, and I can say that what Mary said is probably one of the best aspects of the program. You feel so much better after you just had the opportunity to just be with some good people in a good environment and just be with them, get to know them, they get to know you, and leave feeling a little bit more filled. That's my comment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Mary, I feel like you just hit the nail on the head. That is the way most people do feel when they walk into there. It's just feeling motivated to go. How many people talk themselves out of it? I know. I know there have been many a Saturday, because here in Atlanta we did the second Saturday temple trip, dinner, and dance. And there have been many a Saturday, if this was not my calling or my assignment, I'd have been at home. I'm just telling you, honestly. But I've been doing this also a long time. And, I love the program and I have a very strong testimony of there are some days when I'm just like, could I just stay home? Hey, Fred, did you have a comment you wanted to make? Fred?
Hey, there you go. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
there you go. Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to text. I noticed there are two Fred Fridays on here, and one of them doesn't look anything like me. But I don't know how that happened.
She's sharing your link.
Oh, cool. I don't know how they do that. But anyway, you were talking about your process of grief. That's a hard one. I've experienced that. I don't know. I've both been divorced 30-something years ago, and I'm also a widow.
Mm-hmm.
Also experienced the feeling of a relationship that's very, very painful. But I'm a firm believer in what you said, that you have to walk through that dark forest to get to the sunny valley or the sunny meadow beyond.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let yourself hurt and cry and feel that pain. You can't stuff it somewhere. I've got a couple of my children who have suffered, continue to suffer, because they've really never been able to grieve when one of their parents passed away suddenly when they were in the teens or preteens. So it's a real good principle you point out there. You've got to go through that, and it's hard, very, very hard. But there's ways you can do that by writing letters to the one that you've lost, not to be mailed, or has to be burned if you want to. those kind of things. So those are, I don't know who is experiencing those kind of things, but I thought that was great advice. So that's really what I had to say. And relative to the activities, I think you do a fantastic job of it. I'm glad you don't give up and stay home. It's really wonderful.
Thanks.
But I think what's really important when we go to activities is not that we're there looking for the next love of our life, particular, but we go there, like Roger said, just to be around good people and to be supporting to one another.
Yep.
The new
Awesome.
approach in the church right now, and has been for a few years now, is to be much more open about our feelings and about our challenges that occur to us. Whereas before, you'll say, how you doing, Fred? I'm doing great. You know, I've got everything perfectly in line, and going back home, everything's looked like a bowl of spaghetti. And I think in the elders' quorums and places like that, we're seeing much more open discussions about what's really going on in our lives, so that we can minister to one another. Not that we turn into a bunch of whiners all the time, but
Right.
that we share with others and say, you know, I'm really feeling whatever about this or that with one of our friends, and we can be honest about that. So,
Right. Awesome.
did I use up enough?
That's great.
Thanks, Molly.
No problem. I love it. I loved your thoughts and your comments. You guys are awesome. You know, it is really something how we need friendship, and we need people who've been through something similar to what we've gone through to be able to bond our friendship, if you will. I know there's someone here on the call. She and I have bonded, and one of my best friends, Deanna, and she, sadly, what brought us together wasn't a fabulous thing. But, you know, the situations with our lives before and whatever, it you know, it's something where we can bond in friendship over different things. And I needed her. And she's just awesome. And I just love her. I'm so glad that she's in my life. And I met her through the Single Adult program. I wouldn't have been able to meet her through any other means. And it was like we were soul sisters. It's like from the time we met, we just knew we were going to be friends. You know, it was just kind of awesome that way. Not everybody that I meet is like that, but you know, I've got different people in my life that some people I've been able to help, and other people they've helped me. And through those stages, it's been something. And Fred, you know, I've done the whole I'm great. I do that now. I just do that now. I'm not going to bother with telling you that my house is falling apart and I've got this kid doing that and I've got that kid doing that. How are you, Paula? I'm great. Just peachy. Life's good, you know, and we're going to go. So for me, it's just a lot better than trying to keep bringing it up. And now there's still friends that I'll talk to, and they know about my house falling apart and my, you know, the other stuff going on. But you know, but just in general, yeah.
I get what you're saying there, Paula. I certainly didn't mean that we stand up in elders quorum meeting and explain our tragedy.
I know, right?
And all of us have seen that, and you go, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to hear that."
Yeah.
But right. That you're able to connect with somebody that you can share those things. One of the things that us men have a problem with is two things. One is we're not as open about sharing those things as women are with other women.
Right.
And men are hesitant to share with each other.
Right.
I think I'm probably better than most, but I think that's important that we do that, because how can we minister to another soul if we don't really know what's going on? We don't read minds.
Right.
I do, but most others don't.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. You know, you said something else in that the thing about a divorce situation. In a church, the idea of counseling in our stake was like a taboo thing almost for years and years. And I would say that if you've been divorced and you have not gone through some counseling, you're going to be going down the wrong road, and you're going to make some serious mistakes if you haven't already. And you just need to do that. I mean, because you need a independent, impartial perspective on what you're doing, because we internalize everything and we become blinded by our own pain and fear and all those things. So I recommend counseling to everyone who's been divorced, recognizing if they're giving you immoral counsel, know that. Surely you were smart enough to not do that, but maybe not.
Right. Yeah.
Enough. Sorry.
Well, no, I agree. I think that we all need it at certain points, and I agree that there is a stigma for some people, especially for men, that it's a sign of weakness if we share feelings. Whereas for me, it's a sign of strength. If a man can express his feelings, that to me is a sign of strength. Now I've raised 4 sons, so I'm coming at it from a whole different perspective, because I have my youngest son right now. He's serving a mission in Brazil. He is probably the most passionate, the most emotional, like heart on his sleeve child I've got. And it was hard for him to accept how emotional he would feel sometimes, because especially for those of you that know him, he is like, him and God are like, 2 peas in a pod. And so he feels the Spirit very easily and very strongly. And it would bring him to tears a lot. And it helped him being able to see Elder Eyring during General Conference. And actually, he had his oldest brother was like, you know what? You remind me of Elder Eyring, because whenever you talk, you do the hand thing that Elder Eyring does. And you start talking about, he's like, Mom, that's like, so instead of him taking it as an insult of, hey, you cry too much kind of thing, he's comparing me to an apostle. That's like way cool. So anyway, but something else I heard a long time ago, and it helped me in raising my sons, is that one of the strongest men, the most perfect man to ever walk the earth, we have record that he wept, not just cried, but he wept. And not just once, but a few times that we have record of. I'm sure it was much more than what we have record of. But Christ wept when he experienced loss, especially when Lazarus. I mean, can you imagine? Lazarus died, and he wept. He was the Savior of the world, could perform a miracle to bring him back, which he did, but he wept at the loss. So that to me is just kind of huge. Being able to show emotion, to me, shows that you're you're closer to the Lord, and you have a strong relationship with the Lord and with the Spirit. So that to me is kind of huge. Paul Wilkerson here in the chat box says, surely in order to move forward, or in order to not bring problems into a new relationship, one thing is to overcome the guilt and depression. How can you see with and overcome that? Maybe that's a typo. So we definitely, that's kind of the purpose of this. So the relationships that you need to develop and work on mainly while you're going through these stages are friendships. And we need to keep it at friendships until you have very solidly hit the end of this. And we're going to go into dating more next week, and we're going to pick up on the stages. We're going to start off there next week, because we're going to be addressing the whole dating thing next week. But I wanted to get through the stages of loss first, because that's like number one. No one is ready to date if you're still angry with your ex, or if you're still going through the depression, or if you're still going through the guilt. If you're still harboring guilt, you're going to project that onto someone else. So you've got to be able to get through those stages. I love Fred's recommendation of therapy. I think it's a very valid recommendation, and I want to second that. It's depending on what you've gone through. So many people think, oh, well, I'm a strong person, I don't need that, or I'll just get over it. It's a lot harder just to get over that. Mary Miller says, I have found a great retreat for widows and widowers, which helped a lot. If anyone wants info, she can get that to them. Okay, so there's Mary Miller. And Mary, you're in the Powder Springs stake, right? I believe so. So yeah. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities for people to have friends within the single adult program and to be able to develop healthy relationships of friendships. Too many people wanting to rush right back into something without dealing with and coping with your loss first. And sadly, that means that you're going to end up here again later. Not always, but a lot of the times that is what that means. All right, did anybody else have any other comments? Deanna, did you want to share anything?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I was just going to say that I completely agree with the showing up to single adult events, even when you're not maybe ready
Right.
to date yet. Just because I've been single since 2011. And I was in my first single adult thing was Rock the Dock like 3 years ago or something. And
Right.
I wasn't ready to date when I showed up there, but it kind of helps open you up maybe more to the idea, and it gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit. I think when you go through a traumatic event, which divorce is, or the death of a loved one,
Totally.
you tend to close yourself off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to be there for a little bit, just not forever. And you have to force yourself out of that. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
She's so awesome. All right, so Dale has made a comment that it takes about a year, or they say that it takes about 1 year of grieving for every 5 years of marriage before you are emotionally available for a new relationship. I think that varies person to person, quite honestly. I think some people I think it just varies person to person, quite honestly. I was married to my last husband for 10 years, and it took me at least 5 years just to feel somewhat normal again. But I went through the shock of my life. So, it just depends. Just depends. And Mary says, but it is true that some people don't get over it when people expect, right? Right. I mean, it's like, seriously, there will be just different things that people deal with, and it's all within your own time. We all are experiencing different aspects of singleness, and we're all at different stages of our singleness. So that's why I know that it was inspired, that the leaders were inspired to create the single adult program. And now here and in different areas of the world, especially here in the US, it's different for different people, the single adult program. It's ran differently in different areas, which is fine. But again, approaching it like a big group of friends, and you're going to go make friends, you're going to find you're so much happier, and you will benefit so much more from it. Now, I had no intention of being single 10 years later. But I can tell you, though, that I continue to work on personal development. I continue to work on my relationship with the Lord. I continue to reach out in friendship and fellowship to other people. And I continue to pray that one day I won't be single anymore. Honestly, I'm being vulnerable here, people. But but for now I am, and that's okay. Not like I hate my life. It's just different than what I had imagined. Definitely did not think I'd go through half of what I've gone through. Yeah, Roger, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just shared a little bit of something that a counselor shared with me, and other people may have heard this before, and I apologize for that. But she told me something about grieving that really helped me understand, and that was that our grieving process is like a fingerprint, and everybody has a different fingerprint. And there is no one that can tell you that your grieving process is going to be similar to or identical to or somewhat like someone else's, because it's just not true. So your situation is very distinct, very unique, and it helps to understand that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I love that. I love that. Never heard of that before, but I love that. It's our own fingerprint. So yeah, so maybe we can come up with some sort of meme. You guys want to put your heads together, maybe some sort of meme, how we can put our own fingerprint in on the single adult program for everybody and be a friend, because we need everybody's different fingerprints in this. But yeah, I love it. The one thing that my counselor told me within the first couple of weeks that changed my whole outlook was the new normal aspect. She said, so here you are with your normal, you're here thinking, okay, well, this was my normal with my husband and with the kids and the church and everything, right? Like that we were just going through, it was all normal to us. School and whatever else we were dealing with. And then all of a sudden it was like a baseball bat hit a window pane, and my whole normal was that window pane that just shattered and went into little pieces everywhere. And here I was trying to save it and put it all back together again, and it just was not going to happen. So what she said you basically have to go down, get on the floor, and figure out which of those pieces you want to keep in your new normal. She said, but you're going to create a whole different window pane. And actually for me, I created what I had envisioned of a stained glass window. And it was new, it was different, and it was a new normal. And I like the new normal way better than what I had before. So that we came out a whole lot better than what we had going in. Okay, anyone else want to make a comment or have questions for anybody? I love this. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would, just invite people back next week, and I'll add on as many of you guys as I can as panelists, and then that way we get to all interact and see each other and talk to each other and be a part of this. But I really feel like that we can all help each other through the different stages of our losses and be able to help us develop the friendships and encourage each other and just be there for each other. Because I really am a firm believer in that we all are single at the same time for some reason, and we need each other. So with that, anybody else have any other comments, questions, anything else? All right, I appreciate you guys being with us tonight. I am going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you next week. I'm going to talk about the big topic of dating next week. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.